I think today we've witnessed some very good moves from the Liberals, which is a very odd thing to say post the 2025 election, but I think we're watching very slowly, mind you, the moderate voices within the party, not at a federal level, but at a state level in New South Wales and particularly in Victoria, start to win the fight against the sort of conspiratorial conservatism that has seemingly been taking over the Liberal Party at every level. So I'll get to New South Wales towards the end of the video, but the real story of today in terms of shake-up within the Liberal Party is what has happened in Victoria, where Brad Batten, the Conservative leader of the party, has been challenged and deposed, and a moderate, Jess Wilson, the former Shadow Treasurer for the Liberal Party, has taken over as leader. And it represents a pretty seismic shift within the Victorian Liberal Party. Now, Victoria is viewed by most people as the birthplace of the Liberal Party. It was like Menzies' experiment post-World War II to bring back a new political movement to try and fight Labor, and Menzies did it starting off in Victoria. But Victoria has been anything but a success story for the Liberal Party as of late. At the state level, they have lost 3 elections in a row now, including 2 back-to-back landslide defeats. And at the federal level, they have been absolutely gutted. Within Melbourne, I believe they only have 2 seats now, suffering both against the ALP and against a number of independents in the inner city area. But going back to the state level, the Liberal Party there, through the Dan Andrews era up until now, has really just kind of been a revolving door of failures trying to get the party back into power in the state parliament. And I believe that this change from Brad Batten to Jess Wilson will represent, in just the last 12 months, 3 different leaders that the party has had. So what led to Brad Batten's downfall today? Well, it's been a long time coming. Brad Batten came to power after the John Pizzuto Moira Deeming disaster that destroyed his leadership. And when Brad came in, he was the conservative option, someone who could try and consolidate all the factions of the party and keep it together, and really wanted the party to focus on crime as a key issue going into next year's election. So Brad was basically the default conservative option. A moderate leader was torn down in a very messy public affair. Brad comes in as the conservative wannabe unity candidate, and we're going to make it about crime, safety, and the typical conservative liberal issues. But that really wasn't getting him anywhere, despite the fact that the Labor government in Victoria is at this point incredibly old and pretty worn out with voters, not being anywhere near popular. The Liberal Party still hasn't managed to really get a breakthrough in any polling. At best, as looking at the polling currently, the 2026 election is really a dead heat. And things only got worse for Brad as of late, particularly when the state Labor government kind of took the issue of crime away from him. I believe the slogan that they're using at the moment in Victoria is adult crime, adult time, in terms of basically making it much easier in the state of Victoria to sentence youth offenders as if they were adults. And that reform being put in place has kind of gutted what Brad Batten was kind of running on, this idea of being really tough on crime. The state Labor Party, the government, by pursuing this new reform that is incredibly brutal towards young offenders, regardless of what you think of it, it has, within the perception of Victorian voters, kind of shown oh, okay, the Labor Party is serious about acting on the perceived crisis of youth crime within the state. And it seemed that that was kind of the terminal point for Brad's leadership. So yesterday, a multi-faction delegation made up of moderates and conservatives went to Batten and basically said, your leadership is done. You do not have the support of the party room. And there was a spill motion today. But Brad, despite knowing what the numbers were, decided that he was going to fight it anyway and went against the spill motion. And the final vote there was 19 votes for the spill motion and 13 votes to keep Batten in place. So he was defeated. And then in the subsequent ballot for the leadership, Jess Wilson was elected unopposed. Now, Jess Wilson is definitely a moderate. She supported the Indigenous voice to Parliament during the referendum, and her seat in state parliament is within Kooyong, the seat that is now held by the Teal independent Monique Ryan. So this kind of represents like almost like the perfect picture of like what the party lost against the Teals, and that is inner city moderate women. And that is now the face of the Victorian Liberal Party. And I'm honestly happy if that sort of Turnbull-esque brand of Liberal can come back. It's not something that I would vote for anymore. I've very much moved to the left since leaving the Liberal Party, but I am happy to see some semblance of insanity creeping its way back in. And I never thought I would say this, but credit to the Victorian Liberals. They have done something not insane today. Ditched the conservative wing of the party for a moderate who might actually have a chance in 2026. So anyway, on to New South Wales, where Mark Speakman seems to be in a little bit of trouble when it comes to rumours spreading around about his leadership. Now, Speakman is himself a moderate, but he has not been polling well in comparison to Chris Minns. There is an absolute canyon between the two in terms of like personal approval and actual broader party appeal. And it seems that if current polling holds, Chris Minns' Labor government is on track for a very healthy re-election in 2027. So with 2 years, like us halfway through the term, and no real turnaround, it seems that members of Speakman's party are pretty keen to shake things up. So the day started pretty interesting for the Liberals. In their party room meeting, quite contentiously, the New South Wales Liberals voted to continue to support net zero as their official party policy. First of all, awesome. But that does put them on a collision course with the federal Liberals and even potentially at odds with the New South Wales Nationals, who have said that in principle they support dropping net zero. So the Liberal Party of New South Wales seems to be kind of a lone beacon at the moment in the broader nationwide, every statewide branch of the coalition, in that the New South Wales Liberals are saying they are sticking with net zero because realistically there's no way that they get elected without it. But that being said, I don't think net zero has much to do with a potential Speakman challenge, mainly because it seems that there's kind of a just point of consensus amongst all the New South Wales Libs, being a much more moderate branch of the party, that net zero is just good politics here. And realistically, they can't get back to government without some sort of sensible climate policy. What I think is going to bring down Mark Speakman is not an issue of policy, but rather an issue of personality. His inability to find a breakthrough against Chris Minns is really what's going to tear him down. So in terms of a potential replacement, there's really one name that keeps coming up in all the reporting amongst all the Liberal sources that is almost certainly going to be the next person to take over the New South Wales Liberals after Mark Speakman. And that person, I'm not kidding, is Liberal MP Kelly Sloan. No relation whatsoever, but I do think it is hilarious that the person potentially engineering a Liberal spill to produce more content for this channel is somebody also named Sloan. So according to the reporting that I have read, there are rumours that somebody is probably going to challenge Speakman over the next couple of months. If that challenge isn't successful, and it's likely that it won't be, that will damage Speakman's standing within the party to a point at which he will most likely step down and make room for Kelly Sloan to then take over the leadership. And to add to the poetry of it all, Kelly Sloan, the electorate that she represents in the New South Wales House, is inside of the federal division of Wentworth, which is currently also represented by a Teal independent. So it's very trippy looking at it. Like the New South Wales Liberal Party that I left is now being taken over by a moderate Liberal woman, potentially with my name, who is going to lead the party as a moderate, as somebody who is specifically going to try and undermine the growth of the Teal independents. Part of me does want to root for her, purely to see a Sloan take over the party that I abandoned because it went too right-wing. That would be a wonderful poetic arc to the New South Wales Liberal Party and my relationship with it. And if she did become leader and potentially win the next state level election, then I could genuinely refer to New South Wales as the Sloan Zone.